On your left.
So that's what Cap does when he's not captaining. And welcome to the Ruby Tuesday. My name is Ruben, and this is my review for the REDSEA Diving Resort. The REDSEA Diving Resort starts in 1979. Is about a bunch of Mossad undercover agents that are going to attempt to rescue Ethiopian Jewish refugees. And it kind of starts a little bit in 1977, and then it really starts in 1979, the year I was born. Woohoo! Yes! And then the story unfolds over a few years. This is a story been done multiple times, not this particular stories, but there are stories like this, like Tears of the Sun, Hotel Rwanda, and you may be thinking, I don't want to watch this because it's really heavy and it's hard to watch. My wife can't watch films like this because within a few minutes she just is too emotionally engaged. We are from Africa originally, well, South Africa, so we do have a heart for Africa, so when there are films like this, it hits hard. Although this is about Africa and it is an adventure film, it doesn't hit as hard in places. Not that it isn't a good story. I love this film. I thought it was very well put together. And Africa has been going like this for years. There's this thing where it says TIA, this is Africa, because so many times Africa has these stories of just awful atrocities, and this is based on a true story, so I think it's even better that way because they're capturing a story that is based on events. They obviously are embellishing on the story. And then you've got the cast, which I think is incredible. Greg Kinnear is brilliant in this. Chris Evans, Captain America. It took me a while to get away from seeing him as Captain America because obviously he's been around a lot as Cap in the MCU films. And I couldn't help but going, where's his shield? Give him his superpowers. But actually within, I think, 10 to 15 minutes, my mind was suitably adjusted to looking at him as just the character he was portraying. And that's this guy that is quite in a bit of turmoil as his character. He's fighting two worlds. In one world, he just has a heart to free these Jewish Ethiopians, and the other heart, he has his family that are suffering. And so you've got him pulling on both sides, which I thought was nice. I think they could have done that with the other agents.
Your prime minister decided to give a shit.
You don't get to see their backstories as much, which is probably my major issue. If I had a major issue with this film, that I didn't feel as attached to some of the characters as I wanted to throughout the end. So the story does focus on the rescuing and this amazing operation of how they go about rescuing these people, and how they go about, through montages in some clips, making this hotel a reality, making it a working hotel, so it's a front to rescue people and take them to the Navy and take them from walking across the deserts to buses to the Navy guys on ocean and boats to get them out into safety. And so this hotel is this front, and so you've got that as the focus, and it doesn't really focus too much on the characters. And I think for me, if I wanted to be more emotionally tied to the characters and care where they end up, I would have spent more time on their backstories. That's not to say that isn't good. I think it's filmed well. It's really great. There are some characters I think that will be, maybe you will just pass them by, you won't notice them, but I think there are moments with certain actors in this that are actually really good. Some of the more let's say not in front of the camera for a lot of the time, they're just kind of sidelines. There are also really little shots that I really liked. There was one shot with this woman walking, and it doesn't focus on her. It's just a passing shot, and you see her feet and it's bleeding, and that really adds to the kind of the feeling and the tone of what they're trying to show. I think cinematography wise it looks great. Also the acting together as a group, I think it's edited well, so the pacing is good. So the acting is paced well, but the film is also paced well, so I just think it flowed really well. So by the time you get to the end, you are invested in the story and what these people are going through, not so much the agents, as I keep going back to. I do like Greg Kinnear when he's on screen. I like Ben Kingsley when he's on screen. How can you not? I think he's a fantastic actor. Although I've seen him in some not so great films, I think Ben Kingsley is one of the greats. I really enjoy his presence. So when you get them acting with Chris Evans is acting against Ben Kingsley, or Greg Kinnear is acting with Chris Evans. There are moments that I think, oh, that's really shining. And actually, the scripting is quite good, and it was more funny than I expected. They aren't telling jokes, but there's a lightheartedness and a kind of bounce to the scripting that I thought was really good. The music I thought was actually quite clever. It's coming into the 80s, so one of the score parts is like this 80s synthwave, and at the same time, their transitions. So going back to the editing, the transitions with music. There was this one particular scene where it's a score, a music song, and then it plays it on the guitar. And I think I noted that on purpose a number of times when the transitions were so good. And I don't know if that's a good thing, because there were a few things that took me out of it where I'm, as a reviewer, looking at the film going, oh, I really like that. But I think for the 2-hour majority, I was really engaged with the story. What I really liked is, sometimes films like this do that when you get to the end, you get to see some of the real footage, you get to see some of the real people involved, and I thought that added weight to the story, and that was worth it for me. So, like, you can wonder to yourself how much of this story is embellished for Hollywoodism, for the acting, for the action. But when you see some real footage of what's going on, of what they managed to capture, some stills, then it really does add weight to it. So I thought that was a really good decision to have that in the credits, to have those people kind of represented and honored in a way, because the story itself is incredible. I'm not taking anything away from the story. I think I love the fact, like I keep saying, human triumphing over evil. I actually also liked the bad guys in this. I thought the way the general was played, he plays a douchebag as he should do, but also quite smart in a way. Typical kind of warlord, African warlord, but also he seems to have an intelligence behind his eyes, which I think sometimes in films like this they can suggest that like African warlords aren't smart. But what happens when you get a kind of intelligent bad guy? I thought that was an interesting way to go. I would have, again, is a character I would have liked to have known more of, and that's, I think, is the weakest part of the story. When you have such a great adventure story, when the outcome is something that you know, and it's known, the story is, you know, quite incredible, why not embellish a bit more? Why not spend a bit more time on certain characters? Although the main focus isn't about the agents, it is kind of, it's a balancing act, and I'm not sure they got it quite right. They're focusing on rescuing the Jewish Ethiopians, and then it's these undercover agents, and I really wanted to know more about them, to know what they were doing, and, you know, just a little bit, maybe flashback scenes. I don't know how they would have worked it out. That's just something I would have liked to see. Nevertheless, I thought it was a really good film. I liked the way it was put together. I liked the story and the plot. I'm going to give this an A-. I would have given it an A because of just, you know, my minor issues, but I think the story, the acting, the cinematography, everything is there for this to be a great film. So this is, I think, one of Netflix's stronger films of late in their kind of original films. I think this is entertaining, it's informative, it kind of tells you about something that's happened, that it is a balancing act of, you know, how much can they embellish in the story, but then again it's added to some weight towards the end when you see what's going on. I enjoyed some of the acting. I think that it was fairly strong. I don't know. I think you will enjoy this. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this. Do you think Cap was a decent lead? Do you think he was strong in that lead? And what about some of the other actors? Greg Kinnear, Ben Kingsley. I thought that there are those that aren't mentioned, that I haven't mentioned as well, that are fairly strong as well. Do chat to me in the comments below. But until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.